Awesome.
So, I think it's pretty well known at this point from past interviews and your Facebook post from last June that the band intervals started as a musical outlet for you, and then it developed into a band from there.
Yep.
But you say that YouTube was where it all started, and you say it's a band born of the internet. Can you tell me a little bit about your beginning YouTube experience?
Yeah, I'd say that it's like equal parts YouTube, Facebook, like your standard social media outlets. I think that these days it's kind of like the one way that people are able to sort of create a following or stir some buzz up about what you're doing without having to use the traditional method of like play your hometown until people care, and then maybe you get a van and you go play shows outside of your city and stuff. I think that now, these days more than ever, it's easier to garner a following using just social media platforms. But specifically, YouTube was definitely like a vehicle for that for me. I've been playing music, for most of my life, but I had never really put anything out there. And sort of the moment that I did was when this thing started to snowball on me.
So can you tell me a little bit about the subscribers and the requests and just how that fan base started growing on social media through that medium?
I can't really remember like when or exactly how to pinpoint that kind of stuff, but I guess that's sort of a common phenomenon for musicians or people who make art online these days. It just sort of starts to ramp up on you all of a sudden. Like my, personal profiles became a mess and everyone wants to be your friend, and that's all cool and stuff. And the page just starts to gain followers, people start to care. The way social media sort of works, particularly Facebook anyway, is it's like you drop a stone in the pond and the ripple just gets bigger and bigger. So it starts to run itself after a while. There's no real conscious effort on my part to maintain that. It just sort of happens or happened and continues to happen. So.
Awesome. So what role does YouTube and social media play in your music and distributing it and connecting with fans now? I know you have some tutorials and things like that. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. It's very integral. I even use YouTube to stream music ahead of its release. Like I'll debut, songs or a full stream of a record before it comes out and stuff. Even just for something that's like audio based only. It's just a really easy way for people to share content, so I'm able to put it there and people are able to then show their friends or listen to it in the background on a playlist at, a party or like, just while they're doing, like playing video games or doing homework or whatever. So that's pretty integral. Also, I deliberately try to make this whole thing happen without the use of a record label or any affiliation with a label. So using platforms like that is like integral to being able to like take what you're doing and sort of broadcast it to the masses. So
yeah, and I'll ask you some more questions about that later.
Sure.
But now I want to talk. I spent a good amount of time on this specific tour, The Shape of Color.
Yep.
You just started the North American tour not even a week ago,
Yep.
Almost a week ago.
Yep.
How's it been going?
Excellent. Today's the first US date. We just had 5 shows in Canada. It's been excellent, really great. It's starting to settle in now, so feeling good.
So the record and the tour for the album, you returned to your roots as an instrumental band, having dropped the vocalist after the European UK tour in 2012. So what has it been like getting on the road again as a lead guitarist, a frontman, and a headliner?
It's good. It doesn't feel that foreign. When this whole thing started, that's what I was doing, and it doesn't really feel like too much, like there was too much of a departure. I'm, comfortable with my role, and I'm embracing that again. It's been very enjoyable. I just love to play my guitar. That's what this whole thing's about. So, it's been really good. No complaints in that regard at all. The music feels honest. The tour feels great. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So you mentioned that this is the first time Plini is going to be playing with you on the tour.
Yeah.
So what do you think the dynamic on stage is going to be?
Oh, we've known each other for a while. It's really natural, very easy. Like we see eye to eye musically, conversing, and sort of we've been in touch for years now at this point, which is kind of strange to say. I've been a longtime supporter of his music and everything, and we met in Berlin. I was over there on a European tour with Protest the Hero at the beginning of 2014, and we met then, and we've since got to meet up and hang out in other places. Dynamic's super awesome and just really easy. Like, we had our first rehearsal on an off day yesterday because he's arriving late to the tour, and it felt natural immediately. Today soundcheck is great. We're going to do the first gig today, and I don't worry about him or Simon, which is his bass player, who's also performing with intervals on this tour. I have no doubt about their ability to perform. Those guys are awesome. Like, I would never agree to do anything like that if I wasn't comfortable. And playing music with your friends is like the best thing that you can do. So I feel really excited about it. It's a really good dynamic, like very unique. I also get to play Plini's music as well. This summer we're doing a European tour with Animals as Leaders, and I'll be doing the same thing. I'm just really busy on this one, so unfortunately I wasn't able to make it happen this time, but going forward for the rest of the year, we're going to be handling each other's music. So
I was about to touch on that.
There you go.
So what are you haven't yet experienced what it's going to be like on stage with him, but what are you looking forward to, and how do you think that European tour is going to go working with him?
Oh, awesome. I mean, like I said, just from rehearsal and from soundcheck today, I know exactly how it's going to go. Like, it's going to be great. Him and I are very much on the same wavelength with how we approach the instrument and stuff. And like, there's a ton of vibe already. Like, it's going to be super, super fun, super positive. It'll be like especially Europe, it'll be like a 6-week European, coach tour, summer camp, Prague extravaganza. It's going to be awesome.
What experience are you hoping to gain from this tour in particular?
The same that you get from any venture, really, which is just, to be able to perform my record for people and meet new, fans, make new fans, connect with longtime supporters of the music, fully realize the tunes live. It's so different in the studio than it is on a stage and stuff. So just to become more in touch with all of that and just enjoy the whole thing that much more. Putting out a record is fun, and then all the things that come along with it, but it's it's really great to bring it to life for people and like I said, fully realize the tunes. So
so now I want to talk about The Shape of Color as an album. You did mention that the music is very complex for this particular set. Can you tell me how that's a little bit different about, distinguishes itself from the last EPs that you put out?
Well, I tend to write kind of busy music in general. I wouldn't say it's any more difficult or any less difficult than previous material. It's just, its aesthetic sonically is considerably different. Most people talk about how it's a bit of a departure in the sense that the guitars are tuned up rather than tuned down, and it's not as heavy or aggressive at times. But I don't know, I've been writing busy riff driven whittly music for as long as I've been writing music, so it's kind of second nature. But the tunes are posing their fair share of challenges, but it's nothing that myself or the rest of the guys aren't able to handle. It's feeling really good now. We got it dialed in. So
how would you describe the energy of the album?
Upbeat, bubbly, sort of jovial, really fun record. There's some moments where take it down a notch, but I wanted to write a really fun album because I've been writing heavy or music that verges on aggressive or that kind of thing for a minute. Even though I will try to use upbeat and catchy melody regardless. I wanted the whole thing to feel really fun and digestible and easy to listen to. So.
And does that kind of play into the title, name, and the cover?
Yeah, a little bit. That was sort of the best way for me to describe the sonic aesthetic of the record. You know, when it comes to instrumental music, people always ask song titles or album title, how do you do it? And, you know, I try to sit back once it's all finished and examine everything as like a body of work and then name it accordingly. And that was like the first thing that came to mind. I was like, that's the thing, so.
And it's also, you're describing something that's abstract.
Incredibly abstract. That's also why the album cover looks the way it does. And it's really quite asymmetrical, and you always sort of like find new things when you look at it and everything. It's incredibly abstract. The title itself is even difficult to wrap your head around. It doesn't really make sense. That's the point. So.
Yeah. What was the process of coming up with that?
Like I said, you just kind of sit back when it's all done and you just say, this thing needs a title. How does it make me feel? And then, yeah, just sort of like, there was a chance I could have released it as a self-titled album, which was like sort of like in the early stages was initially something that I had in mind, but the record sort of named itself, in my opinion. I just went with it. So.
Yeah, it definitely seemed appropriate for the music.
Awesome, I'm glad it does.
So you say that you put everything into your music, and especially with this album, after everything that you went through last year. What feelings were you trying to invoke in this music? I mean, you're creating a happy environment, but you went through some pretty tough stuff.
Absolutely.
So how does that all play into each other?
Well, they're directly correlated because I typically tend to write music that's like the opposite of the way I'm feeling. So, yeah. Some things weren't so ideal over the course of the making of the record or leading up to it and stuff. That's all a long story, but if anyone's following along, they probably know what I'm referencing. But, you know, everybody goes through tough times in their life and stuff, and I tend to not allow myself to write dark music if I'm feeling dark, because I would just feel like super depressed to be like wallowing in my own self-pity, like writing this dark music. Like, that kind of makes me feel a certain type of way. So
you really productively use music.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's music. I think writing music should be cathartic. I think it needs to be like a therapeutic kind of thing. Like,
not necessarily reflective of the movie.
It can be. That works too. There's a couple of sappier, darker moments on the release as well, and you can channel that. But I can't allow myself to sit in a room for months on end, like wallowing in my own, like, oh, everything is wrong.
Absolutely.
I just can't do that. The notion or the entire concept of that actually makes me feel so bummed out just to think about it, that I just can't do that. I like aggressive music and I like to write stuff that's dark, but if I'm feeling good about stuff or I'm comfortable and content with things in my life, it's a great time to do that. Because that's just like reading a story or watching a movie. It's just like a window into something else. But if I'm totally feeling that way, I have to pick it up. You gotta write the opposite. That's just me personally. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely a different take on it, I think. So you said in a couple interviews that music without vocals is melody, and without lyrics, how do you strive to connect and relate to your audience? Because I think there's a bit of a challenge sometimes in not having that dimension with the words.
Sure. Just depends on what kind of music listener you're sort of catering to. I mean, the notion that I make music for fans of music or guitar players and stuff isn't foreign to me. At the same time, I want to make like memorable songs for people who just care about music in general. So, I don't know. I feel like if I, write a melody or something that seems really memorable or like meaningful to me, or it makes, the hair on the back of your neck stand up, like, oh my God, that's so awesome. I have to remember that. Hopefully somebody else feels the same way when they hear it. And like more often than not, words aren't really, like the merit of that is not contingent on lyric, I don't think.
Would you say maybe lyrics kind of limit you?
In the sense that a piece of music or a melody could be like fully interpretive, absolutely. As soon as melody's sort of a vehicle for lyric, isn't it? So it exists without the words regardless. So people will hear a melody and go, oh, that makes me feel like, on this album I get a lot of like, oh dude, that sounds like Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, it makes me think about playing video games like on Christmas morning when I was a kid. It's like, that's such a unique headspace. That's such a just a little corner of your mind which is like so much cooler than that melody being intertwined with a lyric that like now you're only ever thinking about what's being said. So just depends. I love music with lyrics too, you know, so it just depends.
So what has the success of the album looked like since its release?
It's been really good. It's been my most successful venture to date. It's been enough to garner putting together a solid headliner like the one that I'm on with a stacked lineup, and got a bunch of international stuff happening for the rest of the year. Gonna be really busy. Everything's been firing on all cylinders. Really happy and excited about everything. No complaints.
So would you say that this is kind of opening some doors for you?
Absolutely. I'm sort of picking up where I had left off previously with instrumental music, and sort of just fully realizing like how I want to sound and how I want to, you know, be and exist in this whole thing. So
what's your favorite track on the record?
that's hard to say. It depends on like my mood, I guess. I'm Awake is super fun. I like that song because it's like it has a lot of energy, but it's not like super aggressive. I'm a big fan of like the kind of like sounds and tones that I used on that particular tune. Fable's great. I got to work with a sax player from like one of my favorite bands. His name's Leland Whitty. He plays sax in a hip hop jazz instrumental group called Bad Bad Not Good, and that was super exciting. To have him do something out of his element and then to feature him in the context of my music. He played an incredible solo. Love it.
Yeah, the juxtaposition of the different genres is really amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. I like that one a lot. And I have like a little anecdote about all of them, so it's really hard to say. But Libra's good too because I got to jam with Plini and he does his thing, and that's a really fun song. So
I do want to go back to the independent artist, you being an independent artist.
Sure.
Can you tell me a little bit about the challenges you face as a musician? Obviously, you have a lot of times on Facebook you say, really need the help of everyone to kind of fund this thing. This is something that I need you guys, fans, to make happen.
yeah, I try not to be long-winded about that like type of thing. At the end of the day, all musicians are trying to do the same thing. You know, when you release a body of work, it requires support. It's not a card that I'm necessarily trying to play, but I like to make people aware of the tangible effect that support actually has on an artist that doesn't have a label or a team involved. I have a team that I work with, but there is no label that owns or funds this music. The reason I do that is because I know there's a specific type of fan that is typically deterred by the notion that purchasing music from a signed act puts money in the pocket of another individual, which is, you know, everybody's going to have their opinion about that, but I like to be outspoken because, you know, the point is if you support an independent artist, you know, that support directly affects the course of action and the arc of that cycle for given individuals. So I like to talk about that. You asked about challenges. I'd say yes, the workload is harder because I don't have a team of people that are running every aspect of like how, you know, a side band would have like numerous individuals doing all these things. I do in the sense that I hire, you know, like publicity and management and booking and all these things that do those sort of satellite roles around what I do. My workload is more involved because, you know, there is sort of only between myself and my manager, one guy at the helm. But the challenges that I mitigate by not being signed to a label and all of the things that come along with that, i.e. all of the things most of my peers tend to complain about, are the reason bands seem to stay here for a while and fall off, or, you know, numerous examples. Though all of those things are completely mitigated by the fact that I'm running my own business with a team of people that I trust, and I can wholeheartedly say that playing music and doing this is what I do for a living, and that nobody will ever tell me how to do it differently or take anything away from me. So I'll take extra workload, stress, and challenge all day. You know, I will trade that for, you know, the ability to sort of get around a lot of the problems that I think a lot of musicians sort of encounter when they do business. So, you know, pros and cons, but I'm very comfortable with the way we do this, and super happy about that. I would never change it.
Yeah, so do you think it definitely gives you more freedom and distinguishes you?
Yeah, and at the same time though, like labels don't typically have a hand in like the overall creative aspect of like an instrumental act or stuff in this realm. I think it would be against their interest to try and mold, you know, this kind of music, you know, to what avail would you do that? Why would you do that? It's instrumental music. It's supposed to be pure, sort of uninhibited art. Why would you try and paint it a certain way? It's more so just like the political and financial type of things that, you know, I'm able to get around and not really concern myself with. And if I'm uncomfortable with anything, I don't do it.
So you think you're going to stay independent?
It's super like gratifying and fulfilling to say that like it starts and ends with myself and my team and the people that I trust, and we don't rely on handouts from anybody. The initial support and investment that my fans have made from day one allow me to do what I do. I'm very cautious and smart with how I go about things, and nobody's ever let me down. They haven't ever let me down, and I'm hopefully not letting them down either. So,
on that note, I do want to talk about your relationship with your fans.
Sure.
So it's pretty unique and awesome that your fans have a chance to meet you in clinics and work with you.
Sure.
In these master classes.
Yeah.
So what is your goal in holding these? As you want to interact with the fans, you want them to interact with you?
Yeah, we just want to give people like more of an experience than just coming to the show and hoping for that picture at the merch table. I feel like these days, you know, like the anonymity of like musicians, artists, rock stars, however you want to paint that, is like, it just doesn't exist anymore with social media. Everybody follows each other, and you can like, I'm a direct message away like all the time. This sort of just like gives people the opportunity to come out and see how we build production in the room, how we run sound check, and we can hang out for an hour and talk about like any questions that you have on your mind, get some goodies and some perks and stuff, and then hang around for the show and feel like you got more out of it than just like showing up at doors and then leaving. You know, they get to take away a little bit more, and I get to meet the people who directly support and care like more than anybody about what we do. So
you also create transcriptions and songs for The Sound of Color. So why did you do that, and what is the response?
I've been making tab books for everything from the beginning. My good friends Luke and Tim from Protest the Hero run a publishing company called Sheet Happens Publishing. They've been making like, you know, guitar tablature and the distribution of that like super easy for people for years, and I've done business with them for a long time. I really trust them. I think the way they do it is like, they do it with a lot of integrity. It's like super high quality how they do that. Between, you know, physical transcription, PDF, guitar profiles, all that. And again, I'm not unaware who is listening to and supporting my music, so I want to make sure that they're able to get their hands around it and learn it and do all the things they want to do. So
I think that's really amazing, because you're interacting with them, and most people don't get that chance with someone that they really admire.
I think it's really great. I think there's I would much rather somebody sit down and be able to like get in my head and know exactly how I'm doing something than like, you know, like putz around on Ultimate Guitar and like hope I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing stopping you from doing what I'm doing is just actually nothing. Mm-hmm. You just gotta pick up a guitar and put the time in, you know.
So, last thing, do you have any inspirational words to say to those fans who are trying to get to where you are right now?
I would just say that, actually, Plini and I just talked about this at the masterclass. I would say that you have to just do it for you. Writing music with anybody else in mind is, I don't want to say it's a mistake, there are no mistakes, but pure, honest, uninhibited art is just like the stuff that you do for yourself. And hopefully the sound that you hear in your head is something that other people are intrigued by and willing to, you know, participate in with you. I think one of the, you know, downfalls of some young artists is like considering what's popular now, or how do we make, you know, these moves X, Y, Z to wind up at our, you know, our goal or our target. You got to do it for yourself. You have to be very happy and comfortable with what you do, and that will show. And not to rely on anybody, like, oh, so and so's coming to the show. Hopefully they like my band, and maybe they'll sign it. Like, it just isn't the way it is anymore. Doing I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with working with a record label. I'm not knocking any of those things. I have, a ton of friends who do this, who have wonderful relationships with their team, and that's all well and good. But the point is to just not rely. They are not the gatekeeper between you being happy with your art and you making music for a living. It's like totally possible to do it yourself. You just have to commit to it. Eat, sleep, and breathe it every day. Find a team of people that you're comfortable working with. Commit everything you have to it. And if you're making that super honest art for yourself, people are enjoying it, there's no reason to stop or anything, to stop you from doing it. So
that was perfect.
Awesome, that's it.
Yeah, I don't want to take any more of your time.
No, it's all good. Wonderful, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.